452 AD, Attila is in full retreat after his decisive defeat to Aetius at the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains. Though Attila still remains at large, still possessing a sizable force, and determined to push his marriage claim to the emperor's sister. Back at home, Attila rules over a divided empire with many differing tribes. His power relies not on a cultural or ethnic unity, but on his decisive military prowess. The defeat, in turn, made Attila look weak, and if allowed to fester, could result in widespread revolt. To counteract this, Attila would work to regroup his forces and planned another incursion. But this time he would strike to the heart of the empire, Rome. Aetius, the Magister Militum of Western Rome, would lack both the numbers and the initiative to block Attila's advance through the Julian Alps. Instead, he chose to garrison Aquileia. Aetius would remain in the field, but lacked the strength to offer battle, instead positioning his army at Bonania to block the roads through the Apennines. Attila's incursion would bring great destruction as he burned and razed, driving many of the inhabitants to flee to the small islands in the Venetian lagoon, in what would later become Venice. By the time Attila reached Aquileia, he was forced into a prolonged siege, or otherwise risked Roman forces cutting off his potential escape. The siege lasted for some time, but would eventually fall in a renewed assault. The city would be razed to the ground. Although Aetius lacked the strength to offer battle, he managed to launch a campaign of harassment that managed to slow down Attila's advance. By the time Attila reached the Po River, his forces were struggling. Disease and starvation were running rampant in Attila's camp. His plan had been to ravage the province and use the subsequent food to feed his army. But the previous year of 451, Italy had suffered from a terrible famine. Attila's devastating invasion of the plains of northern Italy this year did not improve the harvest, and her crops were faring little better in 452. To advance on Rome would have required supplies which were not available in Italy, and taking Rome itself would not have improved Attila's supply situation. Furthermore, he began receiving reports that Eastern Roman Emperor Marcian, who had succeeded his predecessor in 450, had halted tribute payments and had invaded the Hunnic homelands with his own force that had crossed the Danube and defeated the Huns, who had been left behind to safeguard their home territories. Receiving the news, Emperor Valentinian III would send 3 envoys, which included Pope Leo I, who would meet Attila at Mincio, near the fort of Mantua. Attila faced both heavy human and natural pressures to retire from Italy, without ever setting foot south of the Po. Pope Leo would obtain from him the promise that he would withdraw from Italy and negotiate peace with the emperor. As Attila withdrew from Italy, he marched to his palace across the Danube. he would begin making plans to strike at Constantinople once more. Yet, he would never do it, as in the early months of 453, a great warrior and one of the greatest conquerors of his time would die. Subsequently, the Hunnic world would descend into chaos, as Attila's 3 sons would all vie for power. And by 469, just 16 years after Attila's death, the Hunnic Empire is generally agreed upon to have ended.